You've probably noticed when you're either reading BPI maps or you're doing your own process mapping that there's all those funny little shapes. And sometimes, unless you're doing mapping all the time, you maybe don't exactly remember what they're all about. So what we've done for you is we've got this handy postcard. If you haven't already got one of these, just flick us an email, go to our website, and you can get a bundle for your team and just have them around so that people can refer to them. So on the back of the postcard, we've got 5 shapes. There are more than 5 in process mapping. You've probably seen other ones. But for the most part, these 5 are the main ones you're going to need. So we focused on those. So the first one there is your Terminator. Now that's that kind of oval shape that's on its side. You only use that to signify the start point and the end point of the process map. Now that's a critical point, and it's important to do it in a different shape so that in your facilitation of your workshop or in your review of the maps, there's no confusion about what you're considering the start and the end, because that can vary depending on how you want to look at the process. The main shape that you'd be very familiar with is basically that rectangle. So that rectangle is your typical process step. Now the only thing you just want to be aware of with that is it is a process step. What we sometimes see is multiple steps being written in the one process box. That's not one process step, that's multiple steps. So you want to separate that. So each of those rectangles has a process step in itself. It's up to you on the level of detail you want to go down to. You can do very, very detailed how you do each little step separated, or you can just generalize the term for that kind of activity. It doesn't really matter. It depends what you're trying to get out of it, but the important thing is to be consistent. So don't make one a really high generalization and then make this one down here all about, go to that worksheet and click that button. Like, don't go to that level. That little diamond on its side, that one is your decision box. Now, the decision is important when the process could go in one direction or the other. So if you're thinking, we follow this process for international students, but this process for domestic students, that might be a decision. A very common decision would be, is it approved? Yes or no? So if it's not approved, you go through a reapproval cycle. If it is approved, it goes on to the next step. Make sure you have at least 2 outputs for a decision. If you've got a decision box and it's only going to one output, then that's not a decision. So always make sure there's 2 outputs. And always make sure you know what question you're asking it. So the question should be in there. So it might just be the word approved with a question mark, but make sure you're really clear on that so the person reading it can follow it through. That little kind of rhombus shape, so that rectangle that's been a bit squished on its side, that is your data box. Now, for a lot of your process mapping, I wouldn't even recommend using it too much, but what we use it for is when we're talking about getting information into or out of a system. Now, we do this a little bit differently than traditional process mapping, so have a look at our videos on how we do a process map and learn a little bit more about that. But for the most part, if it's a rhombus, it's about data, and it's usually coming into a system or going out of a system. That other one shape that you'll see a little bit is the process shape. So it's a predefined process. So what that means is it's that rectangle and it's got the little lines on the edge. So the rectangle with the 2 lines either side, that signifies a process, not the process step, but an actual process. Now, we use a color coding system in our maps. You can do it however you like. So if it's a process map that we've mapped, i.e. if you've got a bundle of maps, you'll be able to find this one in there. We make that blue. And if it's a process that we're recognizing is another process, but it's not what we're working on right here, we make that grey. So we can see, yes, there's one there, but there's not a map on it, don't look for it. But what it refers to, regardless of the color, is there is another process here that sort of either a sub-process of this or a secondary or just a simultaneous process that's occurring. With those shapes, you should be able to decipher 90% of the process maps that come across your desk, and you should definitely be able to map your own processes using those 5 key shapes. If you want to learn a little bit more, we've got other videos around the details around process mapping, or just give us a call and we can help you out.